part about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary Dog!
Pearson at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is, for the first time, for the last time, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Part 4. Brought to you by the good people at Warner Brothers Television in association with Belanti Productions. Greg, move your head. Of course, it's based on the comic book. We actually reviewed what was left of the comic book that hadn't been reviewed already last night. You can check that out in the archives on Source Material Live. And so making her second appearance tonight on the second appearance this week on the Radulich Broadcasting Network from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, Alexis Hejna. How do you do, madam?
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Let's talk more about Satanism, shall we?
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. All right. When we last left our intrepid hero, she had caused something of a paradox. And refresh my memory on this if I'm missing a detail, but the Sabrina from the future who had lived through the pagans taking over the earth and all of her friends dying came back in time. Was able to use one of the artifacts that does time travel, and she came back and saw herself, and the two of them took on the villain of the previous season together. Do I have that right?
More or less.
Okay.
It's a little complicated, but yeah, basically Sabrina was supposed to use a time loop to free the Earth, but then go back into, basically into a prison-like state.
Right.
But she decided instead to go back a little further and get the other Sabrina and basically said, look, I know I'm supposed to go back and do this, or so you can free us, but I just did, so what do you say we just leave things as they are now, with one of the Sabrinas going back up to Baxter High to be a normal teenager, and the other one's assigned to stay in Pandemonium City as the Queen of Hell.
Right. The one that came back from the future decided to stay in the mortal realm. Her excuse being, look, I've seen way too much death, and I kind of just want to be a normal girl right now. I need time. And the one that hadn't had that experience, who for the remainder of this podcast will be known as Sabrina Morningstar, because the one from the future is Sabrina Spellman, and this becomes an important distinction for Part 4. Now, Sabrina, having not had those experiences, decides, you know what? I have not yet lived, and I'm being given an opportunity to sit on the throne of hell. I think that might be fun. I think I might get my kicks out of this. And so she does. And that is basically where we left season part 3, except for Faustus and his children, his biological children, unleashed something out of an egg, which we find out is eldritch terrors.
He also has Agatha, who is still cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yes. So the season opens with a recap of all of that, and him unleashing the eldritch terrors on Greendale. Sabrina Spellman is at the beginning of the season. This is the first thing we'll talk about. Beginning of Part 4, everyone's sort of paired off. All the characters have boyfriends or girlfriends or, golems or whatever. Yeah, everyone's paired off.
Yeah,
and,
all the first third of this season, Sabrina thinks she needs to get laid.
Yep. She feels lonely. She feels disconnected from her friends. So there's a bit early on where she like invents an attack on Greendale so she can get the Fright Club to basically so she can hang out with her friends and have an adventure. And the one friend whose name is escaping me, the black gal, Roz sees through it all and be like, listen, could you not make shit up as a reason to hang out? Why don't you just try communicating for a change?
She's a teenager. Communication is not exactly their strong point.
And so I think it's Hilda who tells her at one point, like, well, if you can't figure out, you want the best qualities of both Harvey and what's his nuts, the warlock.
Nick.
Thank you. You want the best of Harvey and Nick, why don't you just make him? And so she's going to fashion a boyfriend out of candle wax. And that's the first third of this. What did you think? The other thing that's happening here before I hand it over to you is, up to this point, it's been chapters in a book. Every episode is a chapter in a book, and it's this long tale told over 10 episodes or so, 8 to 10 episodes. This one changed the format a little bit. There was the hint of an overarching thing, the Eldritch Terrors, one building on the next, but it felt more like a monster of the week kind of a thing.
And more or less was, because every episode we got a new Eldritch Terror. First we get the Darkness, then the Uninvited, then the Weird, then the Perverse, and just keeps kind of going on and on. I am really glad that by the second episode, most of the characters have found out about the two Sabrinas. I did not want this to be a season-long will they, won't they plot thread.
Yeah,
I really hate it when the shows do that, where the entire season is basically waiting for the characters to figure out what the audience already knows.
Yeah, they wrap that up within an episode or two, where Sabrina finally, Ambrose keeps telling her, don't keep meeting yourself, you're going to cause all kinds of metaphysical problems, and of course Sabrina don't listen to nobody, least of all Ambrose. And so she keeps going down to hell, and the two of them end up helping out each other, and eventually it's found out by everybody there are in fact two Sabrinas, but we'll get there in a second. So the first episode dealt with the Darkness. They took over a mine, they possessed a bunch of miners, and they start attacking the townsfolk. And this, as a kind of slow opener to get the season going, I thought it was okay. And that's kind of going to be the big theme of this discussion is, yeah, it's fine. It's kind of more of the same.
Yeah, but I think we're also going to discover as we talk about the rest of the season is, wow, so you basically brought back a couple of extra characters, and you didn't know what the hell you wanted to do with them, did you? I mean, one of the plots that go throughout the season is that Caliban, who was one of the antagonists of season 3, he was vying for the title of ruler of hell against Sabrina, and just Sabrina Spellman goes down to hell, and it turns out that Sabrina Morningstar has forgiven him, fallen in love with him, and they're getting married. And I'm just like, so all that shit that happened last season, he was the one who put her in that prison-like state, and all of a sudden she's like, yeah, we're getting married. And I'm sitting there going, oh, I was waiting for it to be revealed that he put some kind of love spell on her. I know it's cliche, but I was waiting for it. But nothing comes of it. We see him multiple times saying that he wants the throne of hell. He's planning to kill Lilith and Lucifer's baby. It's clear that he has nefarious plans, but they don't do jack with it. It's like, I'm sorry, apparently somebody on the executive producer staff just said, can we bring him back? Because I just want to stare at his abs a little bit longer. And yes, those are sexy as hell abs, no question. But his character arc is zilch.
Yeah, they almost wrote Sabrina Morningstar like she was an entirely new character. it's the same Sabrina we've known for the previous 3 seasons. She's not different. The only thing that was different between Spellman and Morningstar was Morningstar hadn't had the advent of waking up in the world that had gone off the cliff.
Yeah, Spellman fought and destroyed the pagans. Morningstar did not.
Like, that's their one major difference. She didn't all of a sudden become like a ditzy, stupid girl, which is kind of the way they write her in the beginning of this.
Exactly. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. I normally am happy to have any opportunity to listen to Squirrel Nut Zippers. That's the swing song that's playing when Sabrina and Caliban are dancing. That's the name of the band. I'm a huge fan of this group. But at the same time, she's like, I'm queen. It's prom every night in hell. I'm like, are you kidding me? Somebody actually got paid to write that line.
Yeah. I don't think they remain true to the character at all. I mean, the Spellman version, yes, but the Morningstar, they wrote her too dramatically differently from how she was at the end of part 3.
The only part of Morningstar I felt that we got to see a real development of her character was in a later episode where she's talking with Lucifer, Caliban, and Beelzebub, I think is the name of the demon-looking dude. And she's saying, look, we still have people being tortured in the 9 circles for eating frickin' seafood on a Friday. Or something like that. And she goes, okay, here's the thing. Hell's getting overcrowded. I'm going to make an edict that we need to start going through and releasing a bunch of souls for doing crap that is not a sin by any stretch of the imagination. It was just a sin back in the old days. And I thought that was a really good line and something that we would have seen with Sabrina from the past 3 seasons. That is something her character would do. But again, it really doesn't go anywhere. We do not get to enjoy the politics of hell, so to speak, which maybe that's because we've been enduring the hell of politics here in the real world for the last 4 years, but that's neither here nor there.
I like the episode where there's the one later on in the we're kind of jumping all over the place, but later on in the season, Ambrose, who is channeling Christopher Lloyd for some odd reason from Back to the Future. Like, every time he gives a line delivery, I'm waiting for him to go, Sabrina, your children, Marty.
It did sound like his voice got a lot raspier.
Yeah, again, he's channeling. It feels like they need him to be more dramatic. So they were like, give us I don't know if they told him give us Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future, or that's just what he went with, and they were like, sure. Like, we didn't give you much this season, so act your heart out, kid. But yeah, he's like way raspy and over dramatic, and like I kept waiting for him to stare at the screen and just go, Marty, 1.21 gigawatts, and like run off the screen again. There's a bit where he's telling Sabrina, because you created this paradox, you've now caused a situation where 2 different timelines are converging. And we can't correct this unless one of you goes back to the right timeline or ends up going into this parallel universe where there is no other Sabrina, and that'll correct the metaphysics of the situation. So she goes through a portal that's a mirror in her room, and she ends up on the set of the sitcom Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
No Melissa Joan Hart, because she has sworn her soul to Pureflix.
So we leave it there for that episode. We come back to see what happened to her, and as it turns out, the parallel universe that she's in is run by an entity. What was it called? The Nothing? No, the Endless, right?
Yeah, we got to see if sorrow's not a swamp of sadness.
Right.
Hey, I'm 36 and I still can't get through that movie.
So the cat Salem is actually the Endless, and he's
voiced by the same actor who played Lucifer, which did genuinely make me laugh.
And so what's going on there is that he has set up this, Sabrina sitcom like story. So, and that there's just perpetually goes on and on and on, because that's what he does. He is the Endless. And in that episode, that iteration of Sabrina started to act like herself again. She was bound and determined to figure out what was going on. She was heroic. She fought off the monster. She did all the things she was supposed to do. She did not act like a twit. And I was like, okay, well, at least at least they finally figured out who this character is. But it was like, in an effort to, going back to the first thing, in an effort to try to differentiate the two Sabrinas, they made one of them a complete asshole in the beginning.
It's so weird talking about that episode where she's in the parallel universe, because frankly, I think that alone... Okay, I know that the show deals with hell, but I feel like her being on the TV show and everything that happens, I feel that was somebody else's script for what hell actually is.
Probably.
Repeating the same day over and over again, not getting any questions, and if you screw up, your body is processed into cat food.
The second episode, Chapter 30, The Uninvited, I actually like this one. I like the Eldritch Terror. I like the idea of, here comes this ghoul, and he looks like a homeless guy, and if you turn him away, he eats you or eats somebody in your family. But if you are nice to him and you treat him well, he takes what he needs, sustenance, shelter, etc. And then when he's had his fill, he leaves. He doesn't bother you anymore. I actually kind of like that. I thought it was a cool idea.
Very much. Not to mention, we also get to see Hilda and Dr. C's wedding, which was nice. That part really made me smile. First of all, I mean, I hate to say it. I guess I am kind of glad we didn't say like a full satanic wedding. But Hilda's adorable because she doesn't want a big wedding, and she's like, I just want my closest friends here in the parlor dressed as their favorite horror movies. Or more horror movie monsters. And then later, afterwards, after the Uninvited has crashed her reception, she's like, okay, look, can we get a do-over on this? And she and Dr. C get married dressed as Dracula and the Bride of Frankenstein. And it is the cutest thing. And they write their own vows. And I loved it. It's like, that is so adorable. Not to mention seeing all the other characters in various costumes. Ambrose is dressed as a werewolf. Zelda is dressed as a traditional witch. It was so cute.
The third chapter, we get the weird. What was the deal with the weird again?
Basically, a creature. This was as closest I thought we were going to actually get to more Lovecraftian Eldritch. When I first heard that we were going to...
this is the squid.
Yeah, when we first are told at the end of season 3 that we're getting the Eldritch Terrors, I thought we were going to get something very Lovecraftian. I thought we were going to be seeing Shoggoths and all these creatures and whatnot. We were talking on last night's show with the book when we see the Psychopomps. So I was saying this is kind of what I thought we were going to get more. But yeah, the closest we get to Lovecraftian style Eldritch Terrors is Sabrina's tongue turns into a tentacle, complete with suction cups, which the guy she's making out with finds out the wrong way, and his reaction is priceless.
Yeah, again, very monster of the week. Very, encapsulated episode. Not a whole lot to do with things before or after, just sort of exists in its own universe, which I thought was fun. I liked, I liked the structure of this one for a while. I liked that they were dealing with, they weren't just dragging out a long plot. They were dealing with a new thing each episode. This was kind of a fun one. This is where they introduced the kid Lucas, who came from another school, and she's not, and Sabrina's not sure if this is witchcraft at work or if she really is just lucky that she met this hot kid in school.
And he's clearly interested in her.
Well, of course. And I think this is also...
I love how oblivious he is. Again, he sees the tentacle in her mouth. He freaks. But the next day she says, I had an allergic reaction to something. And he's fully willing to believe. He said, oh my God, yeah, I had an allergic reaction to peanuts. I thought I was going to die. And I'm just dying. Like, wow, you are either an idiot or you are horny beyond all rational thought.
Well, all right, in his defense, if you live in a world where, you know, strange shit isn't happening all the time, and one strange thing happens which is explained away, you'll allow it. In most cases, most people are like, okay, you know, I can't, you know, when it happens once, you know, you can explain it away and go, you know, it's whatever. And
But
she's
then-
hot.
And then it happens a second time, and he decides to go bug Archie, Veronica, Jughead, and Betty over in Riverdale.
Yes, yeah. When it happens the second time, he's like, that's it, I'm out of here. Now, at this point, they've also established that Roz, they've evolved Roz's abilities. She doesn't just have the second sight. She's in fact a witch, and they go through a whole thing about how, you know, black people had it bad enough as it is. They didn't need witchery on top of it, so they kind of hid this from the world, which I thought was an interesting take. But yeah, now Roz is a witch too. Which I don't know. How did you feel about that?
I actually thought that was an interesting twist. I was wondering from the beginning what they were going with what did her grandmother call it? The cunning?
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean the shining. Shh. You want to get sued? I was wondering. Yeah, I was wondering from the beginning where they were going with that. I actually, with the introduction of Mambo Marie, I was thinking it was going to tie back more into voodoo-based powers. So I like the idea that she essentially finds out, you know, there's a reason you've been able to do this the whole time. It kind of reminds me of what they went with True Blood, when you have a character who can read other people's thoughts, and you think for the first few seasons they're just like, yeah, that's just what you can do, and then they later explain, no, there's a reason you can do it. Right. So I kind of like that they did build it up a little bit, and I also like that she's accepted pretty quickly with the Coven. It doesn't turn into Sabrina 2.0 with what you know, the Weird Sisters put her through in the first season or anything like that. They're like, oh, cool, you've got powers, awesome, welcome aboard.
Yeah, well, considering their coven's in shambles and was only recently rebuilt at the end of season 3, you know, that there wasn't at this point. The one head Weird Sister that's still roaming about, she doesn't really have any power anymore. She should, you know, bully people. How exactly? What are you going to do to them? You know,
Much.
Part 4, chapter 32, the Imp of the Perverse. So Roz tells Harvey that she's a witch and a sentinel, which he doesn't take very well. The latest Eldritch terror is brought to Father Blackwood. Prudence attempts to kill Father Blackwood, but he uses the Imp of the Perverse to alter reality and make himself emperor. Oh, Christ, this episode. Okay, I passed out during this.
This episode is what I like to call somebody just got bored and wrote Nazis.
Yeah. Yeah, I started to watch the beginning of this, and I binged this all in one day, and this one I nodded off during. And I woke up, and like he was king, and they were trying to take him out. And go ahead and tell me your impressions of this episode.
They actually have the choir singing "Tomorrow Belongs to Me." I threw my hands up in the air and said, "I give up."
Let me just go ahead and say, probably a good idea they canceled this when they did.
Yeah, okay. I have nothing against the whole idea of Father Blackwood making himself emperor, but again, it's Nazis. He basically just has himself become the Führer, and everyone's Nazis. There is no difference, even with their frickin' uniforms. You know, we've talked before about how lazy you have to be when you need to establish a dystopian world and all you can think of is World War II.
Right. Anyway, I think this is the one where at the end of it, they've imprisoned him back in the school.
Chopped off his head.
Yeah, and his head's off his body, and because he bears the mark of Cain, he's basically invulnerable, but he's now bodiless. He's just a talking head, literally. Chapter 33, Deus Ex Machina. The celestial realm gives the living realm a chance to sort out their issues, failing which one of the Sabrinas must be eliminated. Okay, yeah, this is the bit where one of the celestial beings basically says, you can't have two Sabrinas. One of you has to go. And the initial thing is, well, one of them has to be killed in order for the universe to continue. And they're like, well, why can't one of them just go someplace? And, you know, the conflict now is between Spellman's people and, oh gosh, I can't remember characters anymore. Her husband down in hell.
Lucifer. Or Caliban.
Caliban, yeah. You know, Caliban is like, oh, I'm not going to let you kill my wife, and everyone else is like, I'm not going to let you kill, our Sabrina. And so they figure out that if one of them goes to an alternate dimension, they can both live, and then both dimensions will be saved. What'd you think of this episode?
It's interesting, and frankly, there's a lot of talk thrown about what the percentages are going to be of each scenario succeeding, and frankly, at the end of it, I think you just have to sit back and go, okay, Morningstar, out of the picture. Spellman, still here. Angel, annoying as hell. And then, of course, we have a very bizarre plot twist with Lilith killing her newborn son because she would rather have him dead than taken by Lucifer. And Lucifer is so enraged, he curses Lilith to spend the rest of her days as a mortal and takes her powers. And, of course, we know from the rest of the season that amounts to...
nothing.
Yeah, jack shit.
Yeah, if it seems like they liked the actress, they liked the character, and they were just trying to find something for her to do.
Yeah, complete with her also acting as Miss Wardwell, who, big surprise, also does jack in this season.
Yeah, well, she joins Father Blackwell's church, which becomes a vehicle for narration at times. Towards the end of it, she's basically telling the story of how they got to where they got to. And that's it. That's all that amounts to.
Yeah, and again, she tells the story, but it's clear that the story is her priest, Father Blackwood, has lost, but there's no continuation of, okay, so what does the church do now? What does Wardwell do now? There's nothing. Again, yeah. I'm sorry, but I feel that the writers wrote themselves either into corners or they just got distracted by writing other characters and they forgot, maybe we should actually wrap up these other characters.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they thought this was going to go longer than it was. They were shocked that they were getting canceled, and so, they had planned to do other stuff, and then they realized, well, we're out of time, so we need to wrap these characters up, and, this was the best they could come up with.
The truth is, the only characters besides Sabrina and Nick who really get any kind of closure in this season, strangely enough, is Theo and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Because we get, honestly, a very nice arc with them where Robin says that he is being called by other hobgoblins essentially to get the hell out of Dodge because the Eldritch Terrors are coming. And he wants Theo to come with them, and Theo says, no, I can't. So Robin says, well, then I'm not leaving either. And another hobgoblin guilt trips Theo into pulling the "you're a bad dog, lassie, I don't love you anymore" shit. But then they make up in the next episode.
Yeah.
So, again, it's a decent arc, but we don't really know anything else about what happens to the rest of the characters.
I thought one of the things I did like about this episode was that, for once we weren't dealing strictly in demons and hell. We were talking about, metaphysics and celestial bodies, and it was just something different. The pagan religion, such as it is not always about all of that. It can be about space and time and celestial bodies and stuff like that. And it was nice to see that side of the things in the show, even if it was just for an episode.
I did laugh pretty hard when they're trying to figure out which Sabrina should go over to the other universe, and basically Katu's like, they've made their decision. They're going to do rock, paper, scissors.
Chapter 34, The Returned. So
the musical episode.
Yes! Oh, is this the Battle of the Bands? Yeah, this is the Battle of the Bands one. I love this episode. I'll tell you what, they are, the group of kids on this show, these are some talented singers, man.
They are. I've mentioned this before. I am so glad that they didn't go the way Riverdale has gone in the recent seasons, which is suddenly deciding that because their actors can sing, they were going to have multiple musical numbers per episode. Because frankly, I don't care. Mm-hmm. No, I like that we got these characters who can sing and they do perform a couple of musical numbers, but we don't need them to sing every single, other episode.
No. I mean, like, the Flash and Supergirl did a crossover where they did a musical episode. And, I know some people were like, but some people they don't like musical anything. I enjoyed it for one episode. We don't need to do it again, and we certainly didn't need to do it again, during those seasons. But, one episode where they're breaking into song or whatever, like, let's have some fun with it. And I'll tell you what, the group that did the Time Warp, I thought they did a really good cover of it.
Yes, they did. I thought they did I don't know why, but just the way because they recruit Robin back into the band to sing. This is after he and Theo break up before they get back together. And the way he kind of grabs the microphone, like with each finger twisting around it and starts singing, I was like, holy shit, that was a really cool start.
Sabrina's band, I think she does a Guns N' Roses. She does Sweet Child of Mine, doesn't she?
Yeah, I love that song.
It's a good song. They did a pretty good cover of it. I thought I enjoyed the bit here is that people who have died are coming back and sort of wreaking havoc on the town. You have one case where it's a punk rock band that committed murder. They back and they murder again. They murder one of the other bands, like you do. Hilda's
Satanic Panic.
Hilda's husband, his mother comes back, and it turns out she hates all of his girlfriends and nobody's good enough for her son and all of that. This just goes on and on.
We do get a tragic moment. Edward Spelden, Sabrina's father, comes back. But when she tries to approach him and tell him who she is, he won't listen. And I think it's kind of the idea that they mentioned about how these characters said it's like waking someone from a night terror. I feel that the idea was the returned, with the exception of Satanic Panic, who they just said, screw it, they can do whatever they want. The others were essentially almost sleeping. They were saying, don't give them the idea that they're dead, because when they finally start breaking out or breaking it to them, it's like, you died ages ago. They get pretty violent, with the exception of Vinegar Tom, who is an adorable beagle, and we're not going to have the adorable beagle get violent. He's cute and he gets to stay because cute puppy.
So while all this is happening, the king of the return, Lazarus, is playing a game with Roz, and he ends up winning, but then Lilith stabs him with a spear.
Spear of Longinus.
Yes. Marie promises her reward. Marie leaves Greendale, revealing to Zelda her true identity. The return go back to their graves, and Greendale is saved from yet another terror. Next episode is the one with the Endless, where it's a lot.
Not gonna lie, the whole Mamba Marie thing was weird. I didn't quite catch exactly what she said, but I guess she's she's not just a voodoo priestess; she's a voodoo god. Yeah,
and I think by the time we got to episode 7 and 8, I was like, let's wrap this up already. I've had enough. So our last two episodes here, we have chapter 35, The Endless. This is the bit where Sabrina Morningstar arrives in this other dimension, which is this ongoing, Sabrina the Teenage Witch television show. And everybody is an actor, and if you step out of line, you get slaughtered and turned into cat food, or tuna, or cat food, or tuna, or cat food. They eventually figure shit out, and she makes a run for it, and she goes through the portal, which ends up killing her. Which didn't make a tremendous amount of sense to me, because when she went through the mirror the one way, she was unscathed, but when she came back the other way, suddenly the mirror is a solid glass object again, and it cuts her to pieces, and she dies.
Yeah, this episode was pretty weird. I did laugh a bit with some of Salem's lines. Just how he starts getting a little desperate. It's like we get the bit where she's essentially saying she's going to leave and, quote, buy candles. And they all look to Salem, who is revealed to be the head writer. And he goes, I say Sabrina should definitely go buy candles. And I say she should take me with her. That there is a bit of the humor with Salem essentially narrating everything that happens. Like, Hilda sprains her ankle. And Zelda trips. And Harvey slips on a banana peel.
That was funny.
Yeah, there is a bit of humor in self-aware slapstick.
All right, so this last episode felt longer than the rest of them. So Sabrina
it was an hour.
So Sabrina Morningstar dies, and she warns Sabrina Spellman about the Void. Ambrose delivers news that the cosmos is disappearing. Sabrina goes into the Void and opens up Pandora's box, beginning the process of trapping the final Eldritch Terror. Back in Greendale, concerned witches bring back Sabrina's mind in Sabrina Morningstar's corpse, like you do, which angers Lucifer. Sabrina celebrates her 17th birthday, but things keep disappearing. Yeah, this is where Caliban tries to... This never works out for Caliban. This is the second time he's led an army to for one reason or another, and the second time his army's been utterly defeated. In this particular case, it isn't pagans that do away with the army, but Sabrina has become the nothing, the Void.
Yeah, I love how they reveal the Void. She goes to the other world, and how do we depict the Void? Is it a cloud? Is it a mysterious being? Is it just a shadow? It's a wall that says the Void.
Yes. Very, very Campbell soup can.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you, actually. I was trying to think of a way to put it. It's like, holy shit, yeah, Andy Warhol came back with The Returned and directed this episode.
I couldn't think of the artist, but yes, Andy Warhol. So, I felt like they just, ran out of, budget. They're like, oh, we don't have any money left, but we need something to represent the Void. Fuck it. Put up a white wall. It says the Void on it. All right. How abstract.
I've seen worse ways to depict nothingness, but this was definitely a first.
So she is now the Void, and so when this army rushes her, she makes everybody disappear, along with the cake, and, somebody else. She ends up making somebody else disappear before she takes off with Father Blackwell, who says, come with me and I will show you the ways of the Force. And she says, I will.
And this kills me because we know that Sabrina is, even though she is gullible, we know she's not stupid enough to trust Blackwell. And then we find out later, she goes, oh, I was just deceiving him. I knew I was in control the whole time, but we didn't actually see any of this. We just see her coming out, a few weeks or a few months later, hobbling on crutches and looking very weak, and she knows that he's going to try to kill her and everything. And for this episode, really, I'm going to assume you're right in that they ran out of budget because somebody forgot the concept of show, don't tell.
Yeah. I mean, they ran out of episodes, they ran out of budget, they ran out of time, and so this feels like they had already introduced at the end of last season, you saw him opening up the egg, you didn't quite know what it was, you find out this season it's the Eldritch Terrors, and I think, like I said, maybe if they'd had more time they could have done this better, but I think they were trying to squeeze a lot of ideas into a very short space, and wrapping up a lot of the characters and trying to bring things to a close. At any rate, the gang comes to save her, and she reveals that that while he was tricking her, she was indeed tricking him, and they launch the Void into back into Pandora's box. Is that I can't remember what they do here.
Basically, they go in. She allows them to cut her throat to access the Void, and she bleeds white for a while. I don't know why. And then
they bleed out Sabrina to open a portal to the void. Ambrose, Harvey, and Nick enter the portal. Following Ambrose and Harvey, Nick returns just in time as the gateway closes after he completes the process started by Sabrina. He tries to wake Sabrina only to discover she's died.
Yeah, Ambrose and Harvey are tasked with going in and getting out everyone who was poofed away, so to speak. Because the army that Caliban tried to use was all the miners from Greendale possessed, including Harvey's dad. And at one point, she accidentally poofs Roz. So they go in there, and as soon as Harvey and Ambrose get everyone out, Nick reopens Pandora's box and closes, and gets the last bit of the void in there and closes it. But yeah, Sabrina has bled out for too long, and she is dead.
She died of a broken heart.
Sure, why not?
These are Star Wars jokes, everybody. All right, so she goes to the sweet hereafter. Not heaven, not hell, not
What'd you
limbo. The sweet
Writing
hereafter.
on the fucking wall.
Yes. White wall says the sweet hereafter. Terrific. And then she's joined by Nick, who committed suicide, essentially. He drowned in the sea of sorrows, like you do. They kiss, and that's it. And I remember, once I finished it, I was doing some reading about this season, and somebody wrote a review that said Sabrina deserved better. And I can't say I disagree. I was like, that's not what I was expecting. I guess I figured, well, we're not coming back. Let's give her, she just can't stay in Greendale. They can't leave this open for anything else. They have to make this like overly conclusive. So she dies, but she dies with Nick, so it's kind of a happy ending. I'm like, okay. They didn't know how they wanted to end the series. They just knew they had to.
Yeah, and as we mentioned previously, none of the other characters really get any kind of resolution. We don't know what's going to happen. I think I'm wrong. The only other character who gets a resolution is Father Blackwell, who his daughter Prudence walks in and says, "Well, I'm going to make absolutely sure you don't harm anyone by chopping you into little itty bitty pieces and scattering you to the four corners of the earth." So. We know he's not coming back, but we know nothing about what happens with Harvey and Roz and her powers. Does she decide to join the academy? What happens to the academy? We saw that they were having so many problems. Are Zelda and Hilda going to keep them open now? Hilda says that she and Dr. Z are going to move back into the mortuary. Well, what about Dr. C's bookstore? What about Ambrose? Again, we really do not get any kind of resolution for majority of these characters.
Yeah.
And this show really put a lot of time and effort into developing all of these side characters. And it's very disappointing that they worked this hard. So much about Roz and Harvey and Theo and Robin and Ambrose and Prudence and all of them. And the show just doesn't care to give them any kind of an ending.
Now, get out your bingo cards. So after at the end of season 5 of The Wire, right? First of all, it's an extra long episode, and even though the last 5 to 10 minutes or so kind of shows life going on in Baltimore, including the montage, but like you get like a scene of Bunk and I can't remember the female cop's name, but like they're investigating a murder and they're kind of partnering up together. McNulty returns the homeless guy back to, comes and gets him from Virginia and brings him back to Baltimore. People like, I haven't seen The Wire. They show a final scene of Marlowe leaving a fancy cocktail party and going back onto the streets of Baltimore and picking a fight with somebody because fucking my name is Marlowe and don't ever forget it. Things like that. Like, they were able to balance the idea of, as my friend once said, nothing stops crime and nothing stops drugs and whores. And so, yes, the story is told. And the characters' resolutions were met while still showing that life went on in Baltimore, same as it ever was. And I cite that as an example of that's how you end a series. You know, tie up the story nicely so that you feel like the characters got all the characters in the show. And that, you know, and I didn't name every single character in The Wire, but all of the main characters in The Wire got a resolution to their story while still showing that time goes on for them. There's a couple of other really good examples of that. You know, like at the end of The Shield, another good one, you know, Mackie, it kind of leaves it where, you know, Mackie's in the I can't remember what, in the ice office, you know, and he's in his suit and he hears sirens, and even though he's not supposed to get involved in any of that stuff anymore, he's not to do any more street work, he like gets up and leaves his desk, and you're like, oh, where's Mackie going? You know, and by that point, you know, Ronnie's in prison, Lem, I think had died at this point. No, I forget what happened to Lem. But they killed Lem, that's right. And then Walter Goggins' character had killed himself and his wife and his kid. You know, like, it was tragic. Everyone got an ending, and, you know, Mackie's story is told, but there was still that, you know, like, oh, what's Mackie going to do next kind of a thing. There's nothing like that here. Here,
Hell,
it's...
I'll say even Game of Thrones, which I think we can all agree had one of the worst endings and the worst final seasons, at least they did a good job of wrapping up with as many of the characters as they could and showing what happened to them and where they've gone after you know, the big final battle.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this when the show ended. I didn't think the ending was that bad, but I know a lot of people had a problem with it. But yeah, I thought they hit, you know, life in this universe still went on, but all the characters' stories had resolved. I don't feel like they did that here with Sabrina. You know, I don't feel like, you know, as you put it, a lot of the characters didn't really get a resolution. They happened to have showed up in the final episode, then they fuck off. And then Sabrina dies, and it's like, okay, I guess her story is told, but, you know, she martyred herself to save the universe.
Yeah, we get Nick's which is basically, oh, I committed suicide so I could be with you, which I'm not going to lie, I know that's supposed to be a happy ending, but that just kind of rubs me the wrong way that they went with that.
Yeah, like, he's such a strong character, and him and Sabrina had, you know, such ups and downs, and then it's like I really feel like they did no service to the character by having him, you know, look, suicide is suicide. I don't care if you call it the sweet hereafter.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say, oh, it's a happy ending because he killed himself. No, we're not going there, people. And again, this show has worked so hard to develop all of these other characters, and we get nothing. It works so hard to develop the school. We don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's going to go on. They had a statue of Sabrina built. Presumably, they would not have a statue in a school that was closing. But yeah, you don't necessarily, you know, and even like the funeral, I have seen some funerals on TV that made me bawl, you know, uncontrollably. And this one, I was like, I'm not getting really the feels here.
And again, Miss Wardwell, the whole thing with the Church of Perpetual Night, or whatever the hell Black would call it. You know, we don't know what happened there. Lilith stabs Lucifer and gets her powers back. But how's that going to, you know, affect the dichotomy of hell and Pandemonium City with her in control now? What's going to happen there? Again, I feel like they either there was another episode that should have come before this where they could have spaced this out a little bit, or the writers just forgot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened here, but you and I have really liked the first 3 seasons. I think if you go back and look at our reviews, we've done the whole thing now since this started. We really liked it. We said a lot of good things about it. We liked the cast. This one, you know, is on that list of, from what people tell me, Dexter and Game of Thrones and, you know, so many other ones where it just kind of ends on a poop note.
Pretty much. And it's so sad, you know. This has been one of my favorite series to talk about on the show. I remember when you first approached on the network chat saying, hey, anybody want to do a chat about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? And I remember I responded with a gif of an adorable kitty going, please, 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 please.
The secret is, if it was once a comic book, I'll do it. But yeah, we didn't. I don't think I even knew that at the time. I think why I wanted to talk about it was because of the controversy it engendered, which seems to have completely gone. Well, I don't know. Apparently, some shit happened with this season too, where there was a bit of controversy in the news, some sort of tweet or whatever. I didn't pay that close attention. I don't know. Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't actually.
I'll give you final thoughts here. I'm going to see if I can find it real quick.
All right. Like you said, we really did enjoy the previous 3 seasons. If you guys got free time, go track down our previous 3 podcasts where we talked about seasons 1, 2, and 3. We had a lot of fun talking about the show. It really is disappointing to see that the show, again, you really feel like the writers ran out of time or ran out of budget or just ran out of options. There are certain shows where you can tell somebody just didn't care, and there are some where it's clear that they had an idea and they just ran smack into a wall. Whether that wall was the studio, the budget, or something else. Something stopped them from really closing the book properly on Sabrina, and it's very depressing, especially since the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina comic book has deviated from this, well, this show deviated from the graphic novel source material so much. That we are not, they say we're going to get more graphic novels featuring the character, but it's abundantly clear that it's not going to continue this particular storyline. So we're essentially just going to have to sit back and let fanfic writers figure out what the heck happened.
Okay. So this is coming from We Got This Covered, and this is from 2 weeks ago. Netflix under fire after insensitive Chilling Adventures of Sabrina tweet. The official Twitter page for Netflix's supernatural teen drama, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, came under fire this past weekend after posting what many judged to be a wholly insensitive tweet, like you do. On Sunday, January 10th, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina social media account shared a batch of behind-the-scenes pics of the show's stars, namely Kierna Shipka, Jazz Sinclair, Gavin Leatherwood, Miranda Otto, and Lucy Davis, splattered with fake blood. The caption read, "Sunday, Bloody Sunday." That might seem innocent at first glance, but the tweet soon incurred backlash from users who felt the pun was in poor taste because they don't have a sense of humor. That last part I added. You see, it was likely referencing classic U2 song Sunday, Bloody Sunday, which was written about the atrocious Bloody Sunday massacre that took place in Derry, Northern Ireland, in 1972, at the height of civil unrest in the country during that period. Understandably, many didn't take well to the tragedy being referenced in this context.
There was a movie with Ashton Kutcher where he made a mixtape for his girlfriend while she was on her period and included that song as part of it.
That's hilarious. And so, of course, Netflix ended up paying attention to all the outrage and soon removed it. Our tweet was unacceptable, I'm so sorry for the pygmies down in Africa, and has since been removed. We are very sorry for the hurt and distress it caused. Jesus Christ.
Again, don't look at me. Unless Bono was, I'm sorry, but unless Bono was one of the people who actually came out there and said that they screwed up, I think that the SJWs need to go just sit in the corner.
So, a quick news scan of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina within the last day or so. Apparently the guy playing Caliban is going to be in Vikings Valhalla as Leif Erikson. That's making the news.
Okay, let's start the countdown until he shows his abs.
Ars Technica review: Chilling Adventures of Sabrina ends run with disappointing finale. Hang on, because I saw there were a whole bunch of articles where people hated the ending. All right, well, never mind. But suffice to say, as I was looking for Screen Rant, why Chilling Adventures of Sabrina's ending was so disappointing. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of these where people, like, I think this was universally not well liked.
Yeah. I feel that they were trying too hard to give us a happy ending, and they just didn't even think about how things were actually going to come across.
Curious to see what season 4 got. The whole thing has an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm curious if they break this down by... okay, So, part 1, right? 91%.
Awesome.
Part 2, 81%. Part 3, 90%. Which I think we're in agreement with, that Part 3 was a lot better than Part 2, and we really enjoyed it.
We gave credit in our review, and again, I highly recommend you guys go and listen to our review on the website. Mark, please, I hope you'll provide the link. But I think one of the things we really talked about was how happy we were to see new bad guys, that they couldn't just constantly have the Coven fighting in and of itself. Introducing the Pagans as a new antagonist force was really fun.
Right. So part 4, 67%.
Owie.
All right. Yeah, I'll go ahead and tweet out the links to the other reviews that we did over on Twitter, and you can find them all on the W2M archive. I mean, we started this. When did season 1 come out? 2018, and I think we've been at least that long on the network, so in some form or fashion. In any case, that's it for the evening. Go ahead and do your plugs.
Well, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. Right now, we're in the midst of adding a ton of brand new products onto our websites. We just finished the designs on a bunch of brand new items, including a series of geeky chokers that we are selling for romantic couples by celebrating our favorite geeky couples, Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, Gambit and Rogue, Black Canary and Green Arrow, Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Mask, Black Panther and Storm, and tons more.
Tom and Jerry.
We went over this last night. Canon! If you are looking for the perfect gift for your favorite geeky Valentine, head on over to Honeysuckle Rose Creations. We have shops on Etsy and handmade at Amazon. Sorry, tripping on my tongue there. Maybe my tongue's turning into a tentacle. Let's go check and see if I got a squid in my brain. Oh, I'm sorry. Next time I'll just use the tentacle tongue to get some pre-chewed gum off the sidewalk. Folks, go listen to our early Looney Tunes, the new Looney Tunes cartoons review, just to hear Mark squirm. Anyway, we're not sure when we're going to be back on the road for the Comic-Con circuit yet. We're hearing talks that some shows are, in fact, getting up and they're ready to go back to work, which I am grateful for, because I have spent the last year literally glued onto my couch. I want to go back to traveling. I want to go back to the Comic-Con circuits. I miss you all. I miss my friends. I miss my customers. So hopefully we will be doing that. Pay attention to our Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter. We will be putting up updates as soon as we learn about if we will be back on the road and when. Knock on, that's not wood. Knock on plastic. There we go. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right. Like I said, we did a review for the monster-sized Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, issue 6, 7, and 8. Tomorrow, myself and Jesse Starcher will review Labyrinth, Welcome to the Absurd Circus, Italian progressive metal band. And then Alexis Hejna will be back Thursday night to review Looney Tunes Season 1C. And the Podsman and I will be reviewing the WWE special that aired in India, WWE Superstar Spectacle. We'll give that a good review. Next week, we've got All Hell Megatron. Me and Cole are finally going to get down to reading that. Myself and Robert Winfrey are going to review Outside the Wire from Netflix. There'll be a review for the Royal Rumble. Myself, Jesse Starcher, and, in theory, Sean Comer will be reviewing the new Weezer album, OK Human. And on Friday, February 5th, myself and Chris Bailey will be reviewing the latest Dynamite special, Beach Bash, where you'll finally get to see the wedding of Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian. Oh boy. Alright, folks, thanks for joining us here on TV Party Tonight. For Alexis, Hejna, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Hail Satan.